morning, everybody. My name is Chad Lynch. I'm Director of Corporate Business Development here at Orrick. Thank you for coming to our latest Total Access panel, which is in the mobile payment space. Total Access is Orrick's outreach to the emerging technology market. We believe very strongly that if you're going to serve companies in this space, you need to do more than just basic legal services. Everybody knows we're a law firm, right? And I'm not a lawyer. That's the most important thing. I'm a former entrepreneur. But our programs have been very successful for us in terms of building relationships and adding value to the market that we really enjoy serving. The next panel or next session we have coming up is next week. If you're getting ready to raise money, part one of our fundraising series will be in San Francisco next week, where you learn how to do your elevator pitch. Excuse me, your financials, operating plan, value proposition, go-to-market strategy, market sizing. Part two, which will be the following week, will be elevator pitch training. Part three, which is the following week, will be a 3-hour session, 10 entrepreneurs each with 2 investors going through just coaching. Then the last part for the 10 to 12 companies that make the finals, that'll be on May 1st. So if you haven't received the invitation, please let us know. We'll make sure you get that. We also just yesterday put together a series that I'm pretty excited about for women founders. It'll be run by Diana Mullins, who's one of the co-founders of Glam. She's actually done 4 startups, 2 of which have gone public, and she's sort of the person that makes everything work. So that announcement will be coming out shortly. We're thrilled today to be doing this in conjunction with BayPay Forum and an old friend of mine, Daniel, who we met last year at our last mobile payments panel. I'm going to let him come and tell you a little bit about his organization and then get the panel going. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Chad. Hi, my name is Daniel Chatlin. I'm the Managing Director of the BayPay Forum. We are building an international network of payment and commerce executives. So we started in Stanford 8 years ago as a kind of a hobby to look at the alternative means of payments for merchants. And from there we built the organization to 6,000 executives today, coming from very large and small corporations in the US and Europe, and now a little bit all around the world. And we have 2,500 different companies involved, from the Visa to the Walmart and everything in between. We organize events on a regular basis. So we have today our 4th event with Orrick. And we try to foster innovation and look at what are the different trends in payment and commerce. And mobile is a big part of it, so that's why we put together a panel which is looking at different angles of the same mobile payment space. So thank you very much for hosting this event, and enjoy the networking. And you can go to our website. You have flyers there. It's baypayforum.com. It's free to join, and it's only for people interested in payment and commerce. So thank you very much. Great.
Hi, I'm Greg Heibel, and loud too. Thanks very much for coming. It's our pleasure. You can tell I'm the lawyer in the room because I'm the guy wearing the suit, which I dress up for these occasions. But it's great to have a panel of luminaries here this morning, and it's a pleasure to have all of you. And it's important to have all of you because I do panels a little bit differently than a lot of people. I actually kind of flip them on their head. I'm part of the Emerging Companies group, and we are also all about innovation, so we try to innovate our panels as well. Those of you who've been to one of my panels, you know that I actually do Q&A at the beginning. Although we don't do the A, we do the Q. So I will ask the panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them, and we'll go a little bit deeper into the introductions than we usually do for these. We'll ask them to talk a little bit about what their companies are doing and kind of their view of an approach to the market. But while they're doing that, please be thinking in the back of your mind questions that you want to have answered over the course of the event. I'm going to write them up on the whiteboard, so I'm going to go to you guys, ask you to ask questions. We'll take a couple minutes and we'll write some questions up there, and we'll use that to guide the discussion. If you have no questions, please don't do that, because then we have to use my questions for the panel, and yours will be much better. I will be erasing this shortly, but our wireless user ID, if you're looking for it, is Total Access, and the password is Total Access. And please do follow us at Orrick TA for Orrick Total Access. So I'll ask Ray to start with the introductions. We'll start on the left.
Morning, everyone. My name is Ray Ramillosa. I head up marketing for BOKU. We're a mobile payments company focused specifically on carrier billing. Just to give you a sense of what that means, it means we partner with merchants to give their customers the ability to pay online using their mobile phone number, and then the charges appear on the phone bill. We partner with a number of leading online merchants, the likes of Facebook, Electronic Arts, Sony. We're a global company. We're live in 70+ markets around the world and have connections to literally hundreds of mobile operators around the world to enable this service. So just to give you a sense, again, of how the consumer experience works. So imagine you're online, say you're playing a game on Facebook and you want to buy some credits to enhance your game experience. What you would do is you'd select your credit package and you then select your payment method. So instead of selecting, say, PayPal or credit card, you could select Pay by Mobile. And at that point, you'd enter your phone number. We would send you a text message, and you simply reply to that text message to confirm and authorize the transaction, and then the charges appear on your phone bill. So that's one experience on the desktop web. There's other experiences we provide in mobile, whether mobile web or in-app. You know, in payments, we like to talk about sort of chicken and egg a lot. So I just want to talk about that for a second as it pertains to our business model. So, you know, on one side of the equation, we have the value propositions of the merchants. And that value proposition that BOKU provides is really reach. It's being able to reach literally billions of consumers around the world and then converting those consumers. So more consumers in the funnel and more paying users. On the consumer side, there's really three things that we typically highlight, and it comes down to accessibility, convenience, and security. And on the accessibility side, I mean, it is one of the most accessible payment methods out there. Literally, in order to use BOKU, you simply need a mobile phone, no bank account, no registration. On the convenience side of the equation, again, the user experience is very simple. You enter your phone number, you confirm you're good to go. And then on the security side of the equation, and I know security as it pertains to mobile payments is a really hot topic. We believe we provide one of the most secure payment methods online that's out there, and that's because our security is based on a combination of what you have and what you know. And what you have is the mobile phone, and you're authorizing the transaction from your phone. And then the piece that's what you know is your phone number. So again, accessibility, convenience, security.
Sounds good. My name is Hans Reisgies. I'm the co-founder and head of market deployment at Sequent. Sequent is a trusted service manager, which means that we're a service company that manages secure elements in consumer electronic devices. So this is, if you've heard about NFC-based payments or that kind of topic, I don't even know if that's emerging payments anymore. It's kind of it used to be emerging payments 10 years ago when we started. Now it's more it's usually the one that's being challenged by all the newcomers now. But basically what the way the solution works is we're putting smart card security inside consumer electronic devices. So chips are being added to mobile phones and tablets and PCs. With a smart card security there and the connection to the internet, we can load, manage, store credentials there and many other things. And that way the consumer can then use those credentials for traditional physical merchant payments, as well as you're going to start seeing those same credentials that are stored in the secure element being used for purchases online and things like that. So a TSM is kind of like the bank manager at the bank. The secure element that's in the phone, it uses a bunch of key cryptography. We can't give those keys to everybody that uses the secure element. It's like at the bank, we wouldn't give the keys to the combination to the vault to everyone that uses the vault. Right? The only person that has the combination is the bank manager, and he lets you in on a temporary basis for you to do whatever you want to do in your safety deposit box or whatever else you're doing in the vault. And that TSM plays that bank manager role. We protect the keys, we protect the use of the secure element, we ensure that the entire system is trusted so that then you guys can build all of your value propositions on top of that trust. So if you want to store, the most common use cases are storing bank card data there, storing employee badges, storing train tickets, storing credentials of value, but a lot of what we're seeing going forward now is storing administrative passwords, storing, encrypting network communications from the edge of the internet, which is the consumer device, back to the core. So there's a bunch of things that you can do with hardware-based trust that's in these consumer electronic devices.
Morning. The one that doesn't work.
No, I got it.
Technology, you can tell. How about now? There we go. Good morning. My name is Erik Vlugt. I run product marketing for North America for Verifone, and I'm based in Sacramento. And if you don't know where that is, it's this magical place where houses still cost less than $500,000. You might have heard of it. I spend most of my time on emerging technologies. I do a lot of these kinds of forums and speaking opportunities, and get to stick my nose into everything that's fun and new in payments. One of those things is mobile. Some other things that are going on in payments there, EMV with the chip cards coming to the US for payments and replacing MaxDrive cards, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about mobile payments. So Verifone is about a $2 billion company. We have, depending on the segment of the market, in the US probably about 60 to 70% market share, which is why you see the name everywhere when you go shopping and swipe your cards on our equipment. But we're very active in mobile as well, and really what we would call both sides of mobile. So we're on the mobile presentment side, which is what Hans was talking about, the NFC side. Where we're enabling our customers, merchants, to basically accept these payments that Hans was talking about on the mobile phone. We are there for our customers. We're partnered with everybody that plays in that space, the Googles, ISIS, MCX, PayPal too, as well, but they're not so much in the NFC space, but everybody in that is active in that segment today. For most of our customers, it's about the part beyond payment, right? I mean, if we talk about mobile payments in that sense, everybody's focused on loyalty documents, loyalty discounts, offers, coupons, those kinds of value-added applications on top of regular payments. So we do a lot of work trying to make sure that the integration of that kind of technology goes smoothly and is easy to do for our customers. So that's one side. The other side in mobile that we're active on is mobile POS. So kind of the Apple Store type experience where merchants are starting to accept payments in a mobile way. They don't send you to the cash register. They don't send you to go stand in line to actually take payments on a mobile device. So we have hardware and software solutions to make that happen for our customers as well. So a lot of different bits and pieces, and I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those topics when we get to it.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having me. I just see a few people standing there. This is going to be a rather longer discussion. So I see a few empty seats, so come on over and take a seat. It's going to take an hour or so. You don't want to stand that long, I think. So my name is Kolja Reiss. I'm the managing director for Mopay North America. We are an enabler for mobile banking and mobile payment solutions. We are a company of about 250 employees right now. We've been around for 12 years and we're backed by T-Mobile. So with that, you can already imagine that our banking and payment solutions focus on carriers. So there's a lot of approaches to mobile payment solutions in general. Some involve the handset manufacturers, some involve banks, some involve credit card companies, and some involve carriers. And we're in the latter part. Carriers are facing the issue of decreasing ARPUs globally. So with their voice and data services, while they're crucial for their revenue stream, they're declining, and they're looking for other avenues to make money. And enabling banking and payment services on the mobile device is something they look at very seriously. So one of our products is the carrier billing product. As such, we're a competitor to BOKU. You heard that, how that works already. So essentially, we enable merchants, be it an online merchant, be it a mobile merchant, or even an offline merchant, to place charges on carrier bills globally. Currently partnering with 80 carriers, 380 carriers globally. That covers about 80 countries. We have about 550 merchants using our services and about 100 banks that use us mostly for authentication and authorization purposes. So when it comes to the products that we do and that you would see out there, there's the carrier billing product that allows you to have places charged to your cell phone bill. that similarly works to a credit card statement even. You provide your phone number, you get the charge placed on your phone statement, and you just settle the charges along with your voice and data charges at the end of the billing cycle, or it's being deducted from your prepaid balance. From a banking perspective, it's more the authorization perspective. It's obviously no banking happening on your carrier bill. It's more like authorizing you that you're where you are, what you're doing there, and the fact that you authorize certain transactions happening on your bank. So that's what we focus on, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hello. Hello. Hello, I'm Alexandre Rochegude. I'm French, so sorry for my accent. I'm the executive chairman and co-founder of FLASHiZ. You probably didn't hear yet about us. We're a European company having some activities in France, Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg, but also in Australia, and probably coming soon in the US. FLASHiZ was founded 2 years ago. We have a banking license in Europe, and we provide an e-wallet solution. E-wallet means that we have a mobile payment solution that is mainly based on QR code or NFC, or might be any kind of technology. So we're multi-technology, works on any smartphone, and that is mainly deployed and into the cash registers, payment terminals, and so on. So we directly integrated into, as an OEM software, into payment terminals and cash registers. That makes the difference because it's always, I think someone already told it about chicken and egg problem. Merchants don't want to buy any additional hardware or implement any software solution. So what we do is that directly we go to the enablers, cash register systems, point of sale systems, payment terminal systems. We integrate it by default into their system, and so any merchant can accept very easily our solution. So how FLASHiZ works is that you just the merchant will display a QR code or will show an NFC chip to the customer, and when the customer wants to pay, just say, okay, I want to pay with FLASHiZ. The merchant will just click on a button in his cash register or payment terminal with FLASHiZ instead of credit cards or some other solutions. And then you just flash a QR code or tap for the NFC part and just confirm the payment. And on certain amounts you have a PIN code to enter, which is quite usual in Europe, a bit less usual in the US. So it allowed us in the last 6 months, so since we're publicly launched in Luxembourg first as a pilot country, and we're making the deployment a bit everywhere in Europe, especially in France and Spain, we're able to deploy a very large acceptance network and as merchants, and starting operations to the public, so with thousands of customers using daily mobile payments. So thousands of customers are not that much, you could say, but within a few months, with very limited capacity, as we're a startup, financial capacity, we were able to have those customers using it. And when you look at all the mobile payment solutions, let's say NFC, NFC ones, or others that were launched in the last years, you don't see that much people around you paying with your mobile phone every day. If you go to Luxembourg, you will see people paying for the bakery. I already told I'm French, so this is very important to me. But also paying for the taxi, paying for the bus, paying for your restaurant. Imagine you go to the restaurant and instead of getting just the check, they bring the check with a QR code on it. So you don't have to give your credit card, and so the waiter goes somewhere with your card, you don't know where, you don't know what he does with it, and comes back and he has to sign it and so on. Imagine you've got a QR code on your check, just flash this code, add the tip, and confirm the payment, and then you can go immediately, and the merchant receives immediately. This is a major difference. And on top of that, and then I'm over, on top of that, we wanted to bring more than just mobile payments, and we'll probably go further in the discussion afterwards. We bring also loyalty programs, we'll bring some couponing solutions, and what we do is not just making some mobile payments, but we're making a mobile checkout solution. So when you flash the code, It adds automatically your loyalty points on your loyalty program. It also discounts automatically your coupons, and all that in just one flash. This is a major difference. This brings added value to the customer, but also to the merchant.
Thank you very much. And we don't usually go into quite such detail, but given the space and the mobile payments, people come from so many different perspectives. I thought it was useful to ask the panelists to go into a little more depth than we would usually do, so that you understand their perspective. So I will start with the questions, but while I'm taking their questions, I'll turn it back, ask you guys to think, because the first question will be not so much from your own company's perspective, but just talk a little bit about mobile payments generally and warts and all. What's the state of the market in 2013 and where the challenges are? But I will start with questions.
I have questions. Can I raise two? Or?
Perfect.
First one is Google Wallet is already failing. What do panelists think? And second question is there's two panelists I realized doing carrier billing. I'm just curious, how do carrier view this billing thing? Do they generally welcome anybody who was credentialed coming here, who just signing a contract? Or each carrier, you have to case by case open the door, sign a contract. That's a myth to most people here, I think. How to get a contract with carrier? What's the general feeling around the world? Because I also know some countries actually have legal restrictions whether you can open up carrier billing because you basically currency. It's a currency. You got to regulate that. So
Our host gets one.
I have two questions also. First one is there are a lot of mobile wallets.
Yeah, use the mic, please.
I'll ask them again. I'm just taking the questions for now.
So there are a lot of mobile wallets. So how Verifone or companies like that are selecting the wallets that they will integrate in their platforms? So that's the first one. And the second one, right now.
Got it.
And the second one is about the carrier billing. The business model is slightly different than the regular payment. There are some fees associated, and so does it lead to a category of merchants and transactions due to these fees from carriers and so on?
Okay.
Would you repeat the questions, please? Can't hear them.
Right, we're not going to answer them now. They're going to be answered. Okay. So the questions were: how do the companies select virtual wallets, and how do carrier fees affect business models? Go.
I have a question. We all here as an industry tend to have an inside-out view on why mobile wallets should succeed. I wonder if anybody on the panel has a customer-backed view on why customers would adopt mobile wallets. Any research that you can point to?
So why customers will adopt virtual wallets?
What impact, if any, will ISIS have on the carrier billing model?
Impact of ISIS on the carrier billing model.
The role of loyalty points in payments, both redeeming and accumulating.
Role of loyalty points, redeeming and collecting. So that'd be the other way around.
Bitcoin, is it a bubble, a fad?
Discuss.
Related to that, web money and other digital currencies.
Forgot conduit.
And the second question is pay with Square. Does the Square has their own payment method? Is it something real that will take the world over?
Although I will say, from my perspective, my son's Cub Scout den leader was accepting Pay with Square for popcorn sales last month. So I don't know what that means, but
currency exchange. Oh. Just the issue of currency exchange and the constant exchange rates. when you're dealing with internet-based tech providers, that can come into place.
Okay.
Sure. I just had a question about, you know, the complexity of payments. There's so many players that you have to sort of manage in politically and otherwise and tread carefully. Can you talk a little bit about the lessons learned in navigating the ecosystem?
Payments suck. That's the lesson learned. Trust me on this one.
What is the fee taken by the carrier?
Okay. Back.
Yeah, putting my expenses on my next carrier's bill, it's like another credit line. And how guys you manage issues like possible running out of balance and protecting risk like that?
So from the consumer's perspective?
No. Who is responsible for collecting money from customers if they are not unable, if they are unable to pay the bill, right? It's like credit card risk.
All the way in the back.
How do you trade off security in times of marketing?
My question revolves around the social media and the emergence of mobile payments. I'm thinking of the American Express Twitter deal. Where do we see the intersection of mobile payments and social media going?
We'll take 3 more, and there will be a normal Q&A at the end.
Mobile payments as it relates to transportation and parking.
One question is, will mobile payments allow purchase of big things like cars? And then another question is, where you have a country like China that has a 50K currency trade restriction, is it possible to get more RMB into US dollars through a mobile payment?
I'm just curious about this. Oh yeah, curious about the what do we think about the status for the Credit Card Portability Act? Or somebody proposed a credit card portability, so you don't lock into a merchant, don't lock into a processor, or like a gateway or something like that. Because I think a lot of people right now use that as an excuse to basically lock your customer in.
Okay. Take 1 more.
Question about security. It appears the largest category of losses are lost and stolen. Why are all the security precautions after the fact that it's lost and stolen? What about preventing them from being used before they're lost and stolen?
Okay. I think I gave you guys enough time.
It's lunchtime now, isn't it?
Exactly. I'll start with Alex. So I'll run down the road. You guys don't have to talk about it as much as the introduction. But what do you see as the state of mobile payments in 2013 generally?
I think there were globally, and this is not only in the US but also in Europe and a bit across the world, especially in developed countries, a lot of announcements. In the last few years, I remember in 2006 it was the NFC year. 2007 was the year of the NFC, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I was invited last month at a large conference around payments, and one of my co-panelists was saying 2013 will be the NFC year. So that is something quite recurring, a lot of announcements, and every day you can see the brand new revolutionary mobile payment solution in press and in medias. The point that everyone first started on the technology, so it was not on the usage, it was not on the user experience, it was, okay, mobile payments will come, so most of the people agree on that, so what technology will we use? Okay, let's go on NFC, and everyone went on NFC. And I was pretty happy with that because we had a different approach, and so it let us some time, even if we had much less money than banks or telcos or some other ones. Now people just realize that there is no specific needs for mobile payments. I mean, if you want to go to a large retailer, you've got your credit card. Works very well. I mean, just drive it and it works. Maybe it might be a bit faster sometimes with mobile phone. Yeah, not that much. Can be useful in some specific areas, like BOKU and Mopay do for micropayments on the internet. I mean, maybe for people who have a cell phone but don't have a credit card, or don't want to put a credit card for $1 or $2. There are some specific stuff like this, and same for transportation. One of the questions is related like this. It can bring some value. Other way, payment itself is not that bringing that much value. So what is important is maybe on mobile payments and we see that we're turning from really mobile payments to more mobile wallets. So bringing some coupons, some loyalty programs, and just some added value services. Added value services for the merchant, added value services for the consumer. And this is a big turn that happened, I think, last year, and we see companies like Level Up who went from the coupons and loyalty programs to the payment. Because the payment anyway is the foundation of the checkout process. So you need the payment. But if you don't bring all those added value services, it's very difficult to sell to the final consumer.
I think I only have one word for the industry and the state of the mobile payments space right now. It's pretty disappointing. The merchants should be disappointed, the consumers should be disappointed, and the industry should be disappointed about themselves. We all know what the challenges are, and you pointed out many of them already. From a merchant perspective, it's pretty simple. Payments is something that just costs money and is an annoyance. It's just necessary for the business. So if they want to act, if they want to do something new, you really have to bring new value to them. And other than that, they don't see any point in changing the system as it is right now. From a consumer's perspective, last time I checked, swiping the credit card was actually pretty simple. So adding value to that process is key yet again. And the industry in the last year, while making a big buzz about everything, we really failed to provide those two things. Carrier billing is a little different. It's a very unique niche within the mobile payment space, and that actually adds a lot of value to the consumers, and that adds a lot of value to merchants. But in the mobile payment space in general, we'll need to look more deeply into how do we actually add value beyond the actual payment processing.
Yeah, I think I'm not as disappointed as you are, I guess, for starters. But I think this industry tends to set itself up for disappointment, right? The best analogy I can think of is what happened with Bluetooth. I think by all accounts, Bluetooth, and not tied to payments, just Bluetooth in general, is a successful technology, and nobody here will be able to name a year that was the year of Bluetooth. Why? Because there never was. There was an evolution, right? I was involved with that early on. It started in '98, believe it or not, and for years we looked for the year of Bluetooth, and it never comes, and then one day you wake up and you can't buy a phone without Bluetooth anymore. So I see the same thing happening with NFC. I see the same thing happen with mobile wallets in general. I see the same thing happening with mobile POS. You know, these technologies don't roll out within a nicely defined year. So anytime we go to CES or NRF or whatever industry you might be in and make claims in January that this is the year of NFC, mobile wallets, carrier billing, whatever it might be, you're going to be disappointed because these things don't happen within a year. Okay, so that's one. I would say in general, mobile payments is probably, it's a very exciting thing that's going on right now. I don't feel down about it. I don't feel disappointed with its progress. It's a gradual thing. You can see, I could see anyway, that merchants churning their equipment, changing the way they do business, getting in touch with the real value proposition of some of these things, not so much about turning credit card transactions into mobile payment transactions, but more about how do I change my image in the store, how do I compete more effectively against my competitors in the way I present myself to my customers, how do I deal with loyalty in a more technology-friendly way, how do I eliminate paper coupons, how do I deal with some of this offer madness that we've had over the last 3 or 4 years, the Groupons of the world, etc. So to me, to answer the original question was, how do you feel about mobile payments today? We're in the middle of it. It's not early days anymore, but we're certainly not done developing, not done improving, not done changing, and it's going to take a number of years. So 2013 is not the year of anything, just so you know.
Wow. I hate when I'm the optimist on the panel. This is always a hard role for me.
I'm an optimist.
Okay. No, so I think there's two major challenges. Expectation management, right? We now live in an apps world, right, where new and fresh and inspiring things are available every single morning from the App Store, versus payments, which is a risk mitigation business, right? There's money somewhere that needs to transfer somewhere else. In the US alone, this is about a $5 trillion equation, just the US, over electronic payments every single year. It's extremely optimized. It's all about risk and fraud management, okay, which is pretty boring, okay, unless you really, if I look very, very tired, I'm right now going through info security review and ethical hack in a Hong Kong project right now, okay, and so it's a balance of the product group that wants to do something amazing and delight consumers, and the info security group that doesn't want anything to change at all costs, okay? So, I would say, there's sort of a gut check why you're interested in payments, right? There's sort of 3 levels of payments. One is infrastructure. The fundamental components we use that payments is built on, okay? Smart cards and infrastructure and things like that. And there's payments as a service, transacting the interchange of money between 2 parties. That is also extremely highly optimized, okay? Difficult business to be in. The last one is value-added services that have association with payments. Okay, you have value-added services and a payment happens. Or payment happens and then a value-added service happens. Or I need payment because I want my value-added service to happen more. Okay, I think that's a very exciting business and there's lots of opportunity to do exciting new things. So I think, infrastructure business, gut check time. Right? This is a long, painful, business that takes many, many years to be established and to make change. That's why NFC, right, or secure element-based payments is hard, because we had to fundamentally change the infrastructure to make this possible. At the chip level, the chip operating system level, the rules and regulations, we've been plowing through all of this very methodically, but slowly and surely. Payments as a service, again, gut check time, right? It's a 1% per transaction business, 1.5% per transaction. If you really do it badly, it's 2.5%. Okay, so decide if you can get a business that can scale big enough that you can make money in. And the third one, value-added services, go crazy, right? Go crazy. Bring delight to the consumer, and then by the way, something happened with some money on the backside, right? So I think expectation management, is our biggest challenge for 2013.
All right. I guess, one thing I would put out there is I think it's important to start by just thinking through, well, what exactly is a mobile payment? And I think Kolja even pointed out the fact that carrier billing as a mobile payment method has been around for a long time. And so I think it's, it's just an interesting thing for us to ponder. I was going through an exercise a couple of days ago. We were writing something and we were saying, okay, well, let's define all the different mobile payments that are out there. And I think if we all sort of took a step back and sort of sat down and said, well, what are all the different methods out there? It actually could get pretty complicated quickly. And the methods differ, whether you're online or in the store. So I think that's an important note. I think, just echoing some of the comments here, there's been a lot of talk about 2013 is the year of mobile payments. I think if we did that, we would say, and I agree, Erik, 2014 would be, 2015, 2016. It's going to be a while. With that said, I'm particularly excited because I think there are innovations happening that are transformational. Just to call out one specific example, think about the Square Wallet experience. To me, that's a pretty compelling in-store experience when it works and where it works. Obviously, you have the merchant acceptance challenge to deal with, but the idea that I can walk into a place not even pull out my phone and just say, yep, put that on my tab, and then have them say, thanks, Ray, hope to see you again soon. I mean, to me, that's a pretty transformational experience. And personally, I couldn't have articulated that to you a couple years ago. If you would have asked me, said, hey, Ray, what should a mobile payment experience look like? I couldn't have imagined that. But now that it's here, I think it's particularly exciting. Now, with that said, if you look at the partnership that Square has with Starbucks, it also illuminates some of the challenges of getting to scale. You know, I read an article a couple weeks ago about a guy in New York who tried out the Square experience in Starbucks a number of times, and it failed. And again, that's sort of just the challenge of the experience. And with that said, a side note is the experience of using Square in Starbucks isn't the same experience as the Square Wallet experience. And again, that's because of technological limitations and all of that. But I mean, I think we will get there. So,
Kolja, if I can follow up, you said it was disappointing. Erik said no. Is that because you're trying to disrupt Erik's market? And Erik has 70%, I think he said, of the payments market. Or why don't you guys agree?
Just to elaborate more on why I think the state of the mobile payments industry is in a disappointing state. I think we just have failed collectively as an industry to point out correctly to merchants and to consumers where the benefits are of deploying mobile payment solutions to all the consumers out there. If let's do a quick reality check here. Who has paid with their mobile phone, one way or the other, doesn't matter, in the last week? Oh.
Bam!
Wow. I take everything back. I'm not disappointed. I'm excited. I'm hyped. Wow, awesome. I think it's much more than I thought it would be. But let's not forget, these are all payment professionals here.
Wait a minute.
No, I honestly think
Starbucks.
Exactly, a Starbucks card.
Yeah, the
Starbucks is a slam dunk. Starbucks is a slam dunk. It got rid of my plastic card, Starbucks gift card. Don't even send me one anymore. If you want to send me Starbucks money, send me an email. Automatically goes to my phone. Never have to carry the card. I never even knew I had a loyalty program at Starbucks. Now I'm a gold member. Who knew? Okay, I never paid attention to the music that was playing in the store. Now I'm like, oh my God, there's all this free music at Starbucks. Okay, and why? Because they made payments stupidly easy. Even blonde people like me can do it. And while I'm paying, I can actually learn something from the merchant. Okay, and I can be incentivized, like, well, if I go to Starbucks one more time, I get a free Starbucks t-shirt or something like that. Payments is working, okay? Just the challenge is how to make, our expectation is it has to be the same as Visa, okay? You know, that is a gosh darn high bar to clear, okay? But there's a lot of, Starbucks is a beautiful example. I wish it was NFC, okay? Breaks my heart it's not NFC. But you know what? Because it's not NFC, everybody can do it. Okay, I'll give that up. So we can teach people that the phone is a magic wand at a merchant. You know, you can bring your phone and payments happen. We'll get to NFC next, right? We got to train the consumer. This is even possible first, right? Starbucks, thank you, right? And by the way, they're making a killing on this thing. You're talking about merchant benefit. Have you seen their cost of transaction because of this? So much of transactions are now on their gift card platform, where the economics are fantastic, right? They're making more money on the gift card program than they are selling coffee, okay? So I think there are clear examples when you have a company that knows how to, has a very clear vision of what they want to do with the consumer, make a beautiful, elegant experience that blonde people can do, okay? And make sure it's scalable, you can really do something great.
We never guess you go to Starbucks alone.
Twice
this morning.
Well, there's 3 on the way over, you know, it's a long drive.
So, Starbucks is succeeding. Is Google Wallet failing? All these questions I'm opening up to whoever wants it, and if nobody answers, then I'll pick somebody.
I personally, I don't think that Google Wallet is failing. I think it's a great concept. We need to define it some more. Google needs to do a better job educating the ecosystem, what they want to do and where they want to be at with this. But I wouldn't say this is that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about disappointment. I think that is a great product. We have a long way to go with this, but I think they have done the right thing.
I think 2013 is the year of Google Wallet. The way I would say it is, I think Google Wallet is changing. I don't think it is what it was 2 years ago when they originally did the pilots in the 5 cities in the US. It's changing. I would agree that maybe they haven't communicated all that well how it's changing and how that's beneficial to their customers, to their merchants, etc. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's failing. I think it's changing. It's going back to basics, more of an omni-channel approach, and I don't see an issue with that.
I think Google has a major challenge facing large retailers about the data. And we're talking about the user experience, about the benefits for the merchants, but there are also some withdrawals for the merchants, or this is felt like this is about the data. If you go to a large retailer, they just don't want that someone else get their data and might be selling it or might be using it for their competitors or whatever. So when we discuss with large retailers, in Europe mainly, but we also had some discussions in the US, it's something that they point very quickly, say who's owning the data of the payments, because those are their customers and they want the data to be theirs also.
Yeah, I think Google proves that all the infrastructure works. I mean, we can make it work, and we can make a very secure, reliable transaction, much more secure than plastic cards. I think that the big challenge for Google is Google did this the Google way, which is, they thought their charisma and pocketbook could bull rush the payments industry, right? But if we put enough money at the merchant, if we put enough money at the bank, we can change this, very old school New York style industry, right? And I think Google's been, was surprised how difficult that is to change. Because again, we're about risk mitigation, right? Not innovation. Google's about innovation, right? So, and when it's the bank's money on the line or your money on the line, a lot of times risk mitigation beats innovation. Okay? So I think the good news is I think what they're doing now is a good idea, which is make it a universal solution. It's less ideal the way they're implementing it, but ideal is gosh darn hard. Okay? And so I think the way they're approaching it will make it more usable for consumers and will help us evolve the solution into the merchant, evolve the solution into the consumer mindset a little more pragmatically than sort of what they were hoping, which was, don't worry, we'll make it rain and everything will change.
One of Daniel's questions was how do companies choose the virtual wallet that they're going to partner with? What goes into the thought process behind somebody making a selection? Ray?
Yeah, I mean, I would say some of it is how accessible is it, how available is it, and what is, we've talked a lot about value-added services here. I mean, I think some of it is also how well does that wallet deliver on those value-added services. I mean, I read something this morning that was talking about the fact that, offers and coupons will be table stakes. And I'll be honest, I don't totally agree with that. I mean, I agree that they're an important part of the equation, but I'm not sure that we've actually seen the example of offers and coupons delivered in the way we all imagine it to be. Super contextual, super relevant to me. So again, I think a key factor is not just the security and the smoothness of the user experience, it's also got to be what are the value-added services, not just what they are, but also how well does that experience deliver on those.
I can add one more thing there. So one of the problems with NFC, which I'm waiting for all the NFC people to take their shots at NFC. Where's Karen Webster when you need her? She always reminds me how many problems NFC is having. But one of the problems with the deployment of NFC we're having is the wallet concept as an issue. NFC we started on feature phones a long time ago, back in 2005. Sorry, 2005 was actually the year of NFC. Because we started on feature phones, there was only one application we could put on the phone to manage cards in the secure element of the phone. And that bad idea has been perpetuated forward for many years. Okay, and even into the consumer smartphone era that we live in today. Sorry, Symbian. One of the big things we're trying to do as Sequent is we're trying to break that completely. Basically, one of the things we do at the infrastructure level is we make it so any app developer can use cards in the secure element. okay, or credentials in a secure element. You don't have to know smart card security. You don't have to know what a TSM is. You don't have to know smart card communication. Okay, just through some simple APIs, any app developer can use, store, manage, access credentials stored in the secure element. So think of it as 100 applications that have wallet capability to be able to select cards, use cards, present train tickets, use your employee badges and things like that, versus one mythical unicorn app called, you know, ISIS Wallet, okay, or Google Wallet, okay. We don't live in that singular wallet experience today. We have a brand relationship through hundreds of apps, okay, and that brand relationship will continue through that application experience, and using credentials is just a feature of those hundreds of experiences you already have. That's the paradigm I think you're going to start seeing in 2013, and I think that will unlock a lot of the innovation, a lot of the frustration is app developers that already are bringing innovation to our lives can now make use of secure element credentials or things stored in the secure element.
When it comes to virtual wallets, the big question is why would a merchant accept payments from a virtual wallet one way or the other? And I think then that brings up the question: how is a payment infrastructure or a payment setup from a merchant perspective? How do they do it? Why do they do it? What is their motivation on adding other pieces to it? And the core thing is always they want to increase their revenue. And for a payment method per se, it's incredibly tough to increase revenue. So that's why I keep talking about value-added services. The minute the wallet brings value-added services, Starbucks being a great example, but other virtual wallets being also great examples of that, bring more value to the consumer, and then merchants will adopt.
I'll bite a debate with what's probably a rhetorical question around NFC. Who owns the solution? Who is ultimately going to drive NFC to this being the year of NFC, whatever year that is, or ultimately it becoming Betamax?
Merchants and consumers.
Yeah, good luck with that. One of the big problems with NFC-based payment is we're using a smart card inside a consumer electronic device. Well, to use a smart card, we have encryption keys that protect everything in the secure element. Who owns the keys? So the secure element comes out of the chip manufacturer, right? Goes to the mobile device OEM. They solder it to the board. Where does the key go? The key sets go for that chip. Do they go to the OEM? I hope not, right? Because they don't have key infrastructure. They don't have the infrastructure to secure, much less transfer keys. Oh, by the way, we're talking like 2 billion phones. So they have to be able to do it really well, better than even the infrastructure companies like TSMs do it today. Okay, so the problem is, by definition, there has to be a key owner, and there can be only one. Okay, that is enormous power because the key owner decides what can be put inside the secure element, okay, and what can be taken out of the secure element. Okay, so now you're a mobile operator. Your revenues, your revenues are declining, or maybe, and wow, if I put a bunch of secure elements in my phones and I own all the keys, then I am going to be guaranteed a role in this ecosystem, and I can make money from it. Gosh, I'm an OEM, and selling hardware to consumers is a crappy business. But if I put a secure element in the phone and I own the secure element, I can make a nice value-added service out of that, right? Or I'm a mobile operating system company, and if I mandate a secure element on all my phones and with my keys in it, then I could own the value proposition to the service. So I think that is the largest problem that we face with NFC today is secure elements, very highly secure, use keys. Somebody has to be the key owner. There can be only one. So who do you pick? Who do you pick? And I think it's a very complex answer, which we probably don't want to do now unless you want to. But that's a lot of the behind in the dark rooms and all the yelling and screaming going on. That's usually what the conversation is about, not about what's the terminalization of merchants and things like that. There's a clear horizon for getting contactless readers deployed at merchants. Who owns the keys and who participates in the value proposition is one of the biggest issues. Alex.
I would just like to add quickly something. Erik was saying it was consumers and merchants, and I fully agree on it. The point is why consumers would use NFC instead of other cards or any other system. And again, the added value services. Why should I not take my credit card as I usually do? I mean, I can try once NFC for fun, but if I'm in a hurry, I'm not thinking about, okay, I'll try this fun stuff that is NFC on my phone. If I know there is NFC on my phone, sometimes people don't know. Why would I take it? If it brings me value like Starbucks, and I think most people here are using mobile payments for Starbucks, this brings value. If it doesn't,
Hans alluded to this, so I'll ask the chief moderator question, which is, what role does Apple play in this?
Well, so my favorite, there used to be the most popular NFC question of all time was, when are the phones going to be here? Okay, that was the running question in every single panel for years and years and years. Nobody asks anymore, right? That's fantastic. Okay, so nobody's asking where the phones are anymore. You know, mission accomplished. This now the #1 question at every single conference is, when is Apple going to get involved, right? And the reason I think behind the question is, if Apple does it, it'll be great. They'll make the market. Then we can all participate. Then we can innovate, copy, whatever we're going to do to Apple, but at least Apple will guarantee the market exists so we can exist, okay? I think that there's sort of that yearning for one company to come in, sort of take control of this and delight the consumer, and therefore everything will happen. I think that's the aspirational part behind why isn't Apple involved. And I think, you know, first of all, Apple knows how to spell NFC, but secondly, I know that sounds like a shocker to some people, but you know, they're pretty familiar with NFC. The other one is Apple has a very difficult challenge, which is one of the beautiful things about Apple is the human experience is exactly the same. If you take a phone in Shenzhen and open a phone, the user experience startup is exactly the same as it is here in Palo Alto. Okay, the human interaction with the device is exactly the same. Payments by definition is a local business. Right? You don't want the payment cards that are available in Zimbabwe, right? You want the payment cards that you want in this country, right? And by the way, the people in Zimbabwe don't want the US cards, okay? So, you know, payments is a local business, and it's hard to have a uniform product as uniform as Apple and support payments on the footprint that they support with phones today. So I think Apple, for them to get involved, they need to do it well. They need to do it well in many countries, and that's a very, very high bar for them to clear.
I would just add, I mean, I totally echo the sentiment. I mean, I think the role for Apple is that they have the potential to lead the market. And I say the potential because obviously we're sort of waiting with bated breath. I mean, you look at the sort of passbook experience, and I think it highlights some of the challenges that were just mentioned. I don't know if any of you have tried to set that thing up, but it's really hard. Even for those of us who think payments all day, every day. Just last week I was trying to, add my Dunkin' Donuts card to Passbook, and just to see how it worked. And it took me probably 10 minutes to do it. And that's not a knock on Apple. I think it's just an illustration, and someone had asked earlier about payments. Like, this stuff is hard. So I think the role is they have the potential to lead, but payments is hard, and it'll be hard to do it in the way that Apple would envision it and would like to do it.
Just one last point. Apple is used to wait everyone crashes before. We've seen it with smartphone. I mean, the iPhone was not the first smartphone. I remember in HTC with the stylus and so on. Not as practical as usage was not the same as the iPhone, but they let everyone crash. They see what is working, what is not working, and for mobile payments. Mobile payments is not yet a mature market. I mean, there are not 2, 3, or 4 players. There are plenty of players. Some are big, some are small. Some are on specific markets like carrier billing or transportation or some other. But there are not a few giants. If Apple launch something, they will try to launch something which is universal. Which means that it works in different countries. So with some local specificities, and Apple can do that. They already do that on some apps. Well, bringing always a universal solution that works, because many companies can fail. Apple cannot fail. And when they fail, when there are some problems or features, what they call it, it's always like, we've seen that with Apple Maps. I mean, there are some problems, it's just everywhere in the media. So they cannot crash. So they're just, I think they're just waiting to see what's working, what's not working.
Changing gears just a little bit to carrier billing. How do the carriers view carrier billing overall? As somebody said, they're looking for every possible source of revenue, but is that how they think about it?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think that's the short answer. I mean, with ARPU, average revenue per user declining, I think the carriers are looking for ways to increase those numbers as well as to increase the loyalty of their base. I know there was a specific question about how does ISIS relate to carrier billing. Again, I think they look at it as different opportunities. Carrier billing is largely prevalent in the online world, although there's some instances now we're starting to have conversations of carrier billing being used sort of in the physical world. But to date, those have been largely divided spaces. Sort of ISIS in the point of sale environment, carrier billing in the online environment.
Who's responsible for dragging the carriers into innovating? Are the carriers doing it themselves? Is it all coming from outside? If it's coming from outside, there are a lot of startup people here. How do people get into the carrier ecosystem?
Realistically, the merchants are the key driver to drive innovation on the carrier's end. So whenever you're a great merchant with a large volume and you approach T-Mobile, Verizon, or whoever it may be, then they will listen because they are open to new opportunities. Typically, as a merchant, you would use the help of the Mopays and the BOKUs and the alikes to actually, because nobody knows who to call up at a carrier, and they will probably, even if you are Walmart, probably not pick up the phone as easily as you think they will. So essentially, what we've learned is the merchant drives innovation on the carriers, and typically with the help of all the companies out there that have technology backends that would facilitate the transactions.
Erik, how does Vodafone view the carriers?
I don't know about Vodafone, but I can
Sorry, Verifone, sorry.
We're not proactively working in that space, right? So we have a great working relationship with ISIS, which is effectively our, way into the carrier space. We don't have anything out there today direct with carriers.
Yeah, it's from a TSM perspective, we have MNOs that are our customers, and I would just say, really question, does your business model need the MNO's involvement? Because they're in a very exciting, innovative space, but they themselves are not very exciting and not very innovative. I mean, I say that with all the love of their purchase orders and the invoices we send them. Okay, I'm just saying they're built as a company, not with that as their core focus. Okay, and I think it's even worse at banks. Banks, by definition, exist to mitigate risk because they make money on the risk. Okay, interest rates and all that other nonsense. Okay, so banks, to mitigate risk, you stop all change. Okay, to stop all change, you stop all innovation. Okay, so in your business plans, if the MNO can be passively involved or not involved at all, certainly if the banks can be passively involved or not involved at all, I think you have a much more realistic chance as a startup to make it, over your first chasm than saying all I need to do is sign one MNO and then we're golden. And that's a very hard hill to get over.
Alex, you mentioned that you guys have a banking license in Luxembourg. Can you talk a little bit about why? Are you pleased that you've done that? Do you regret the time? How hard was it?
It was too long to get it, even if anyway very fast. The reason why we wanted to have a European license or banking license was that, first of all, this is mandatory if we want to be independent. And we wanted to be independent from banks, from telcos, and from any other one. The reason why that, if we start in France and we managed to have some agreements with all banks, or several banks in France. If we want to go to Spain, if we want to go to Germany, if we want to go to the UK, well, we have to start once again to go to see all banks and to convince them. And so the time we spent to have all banking license was much smaller than the time we would have spent to convince all banks that we have the best solution. And so we are fully independent from banks and from telcos, which does not mean that we don't discuss with banks and telcos. We work with banks and telcos. We have a lot of agreements, agreements with Orange, which is a large European telco carrier. We have an agreement with the largest Eurobank. We're discussing with 3 or 4 very large banks also in Europe. So we're working with banks, we're working with telcos, but for some business partnership. We have a solution, we have an acceptance network of merchants, they have the consumers. And so altogether, but they usually don't have point of sales. So acceptance network. So we can have those partnerships. And because we're independent, as I said during the introduction, the company was created 2 years ago, actually less than 2 years ago. We are already deployed in several countries with several subsidiaries, thousands of point of sales being deployed. Some very large agreements with some large payment terminal systems, cash register, and all that we were able to make it because we were fully independent. And that's why the banking license was that much important in Europe, because you cannot operate without it. That's why we're getting the license in Australia also. In the US it's a bit different. There is kind of
Ray, on the carrier side, how important to the analysis for merchants are the fees?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say critical, right? I mean, the merchants want to know, I mean, and again, they typically think about payments as an expense, so they want to sort of put it in that context and say, well, how much is this going to cost me? And if they're used to accepting credit cards and PayPal, then, you know, and we come in and say, well, the carrier fee is anywhere from, say, on the low end 10% to on the high end 50%. I mean, no guess the merchant's going to scoff at that. Now, with that said, I would say there's a couple things that make, you know, carrier billing a compelling proposition for the merchants. And I think the first one is that the fees over the years have actually come down. And I think as they've seen more and more people adopt carrier billing, that has helped with that conversation. And so, again, over time, I think the rates have come down. I think there's other instances where, you know, take carrier billing on a mobile device or the payment experience on a mobile device or a tablet device where there's a lot of friction associated with putting your card in, and something like carrier billing offers a less friction, less friction in the experience that makes that experience compelling. So there's instances, say for example, Google with Google Play is now offering carrier billing in 20 different markets. And they offer it right there, right up front and center, right alongside credit cards. So the user, all of us could go in, you know, if we were in one of the markets where it's enabled, and again, I think it's 20 around the world, we could go in and we could select carrier billing. Now, if I go in and I select carrier billing to the merchant is going to pay more for that experience, but I think in this instance, it's an example of a company like Google that's saying, that's okay, we would want more consumers, more users on this platform, and in exchange for that, I'm willing to eat the higher fees.
Hans, we know you're a fan of Starbucks. How much of that is driven by the loyalty? And what I'm getting at is the kind of the question: where do loyalty points and collection and redemption? How do you think this is going to drive the market?
Well, actually, I think one of the challenge statements was, why do mobile payments at all for the consumer? Right? There's very little benefit. And so we kind of naturally fall back, oh yeah, payments suck. Let's give them something else. Let's give them offers. They love those things, right? I think if you use Starbucks as a B-school example, right? What does Starbucks do? The #1 convenience they do is wallet share. You're carrying the card, okay? If you're a bank person, wallet share and top of wallet are 2 metrics you're measuring all the time. Wallet share is you're bringing the card with you, okay? We have a lot of cards for a lot of different credentials that we keep at desk drawers and in our homes or in our offices or briefcases. We certainly don't carry them on our person. Okay, and if you're not carrying it, you're not using it. And Starbucks, through their mobile application, solved that problem. My phone didn't get any heavier, okay, but somehow the Starbucks card is always with me. Okay, so wallet share is one of the big things that it solved. Before you get to offers and I wasn't looking for, I'm still not looking for Starbucks rewards, okay? But I'm getting them, maybe I'll start valuing them here shortly. I think that's what again, Starbucks proves that carrying the card makes a difference in their business. The second one is, how often do you use it? So, do I use the Starbucks card more than I use the Visa card? Actually, yes. I'm trending now more toward my Starbucks card and less toward my platinum card that gives me all my points, blah, blah, blah. Okay, because I'm talking on the phone when I'm in line at Starbucks, and I literally say, hold on a second, okay, I'm back. Okay, and the fact that it's a one-hand experience and I don't have to do much to pay. And by the way, the clerks, they've automated on the point of sale, so the clerks don't have to do very much either, right? They don't even print the receipt anymore if you pay by mobile. They assume you don't want the receipt. Okay, so that streamlining of the process, I can detect when a transaction takes me 15 less seconds. Okay, 35 less, and I certainly can tell when it's faster for the people in front of me. Okay, so that little bit of time, that magical moment, if it can be sped up and make it painless, there's a value proposition there. So I'm not downplaying loyalty, rewards, coupons. I think value-added services is where the real business is. Okay, where there's lots of room for innovation. But I just say that there is an inherent value to having payment associated with your value-added services.
The one thing that I find interesting about the Starbucks case is before, and I'm talking 3 years ago, before they started to think about the mobile payments initiatives and how to deploy it, they didn't have really a reward system as you would know it from other coffee stores and supermarkets and chains. They didn't really have the buy 10 coffees, get the 11th free model. So they only started this with introducing the mobile wallet. So the big question becomes why did they do that? It's like the buy 10 coffees, get the 11th free. It's like I would have bought this 11th coffee probably anyhow. And I think is to make it more attractive to the customer to switch to the wallet and to add value to the service. So I personally think that loyalty is one of the things that will help to increase adoption from consumer side of mobile payments.
Erik, do you see, out of this complicated world that is mobile payments, do you see consolidation? I mean, there's obviously some acquisition activity that goes on, but do you see that accelerating? I ask you obviously because somebody said, oh, okay, well, who would be a potential buyer of a mobile payments company? You guys would have to be on the list. So I'm not asking for details, but how do you see that trending?
Yeah, I don't know how the answer could be anything but yes to that. I think there are hundreds probably of little, some good, some bad, but mobile payment startups, and clearly consolidation will happen someday. I don't think there's any question about that, but I think that comes with the maturity of the market typically that we haven't reached yet at this point. So
I can add one thing to that. One thing I can add to that is all these brands need payments people. Okay, so you walk into merchants, large merchants, medium-sized merchants, transit systems, all these companies need payment people. All of a sudden payment matters a lot more than just the CFO's office. So I think one of the absolute benefits of starting your own payments company is that you start building a team of people that know how to work together, that can innovate. You start building your team value, because there's going to be a land rush for people looking for teams that know how payments work. Okay, whether your product was wildly successful or not, these companies are going to need thousands of teams of payment people around the world, because as payment moves more and more into sort of next generation payment stuff.
No, I just want to add one thought. I will say that if you're, I don't know the crowd, right? But if people are thinking about doing their own mobile payment startup, you got to look at where you're going to differentiate. Because one thing, I'm sure we're all seeing this, we're seeing is there's a lot of the same stuff. That, you know, basically, I can describe 50 mobile payment startup with 2 sentences, right? A basic card not present, barcode based mobile payments company. That describes probably about 50 startups. So, and Hans had a good point in kind of addressing it to the audience, if you're going that direction, you gotta think about how you're gonna differentiate amongst your other 50 mobile payment startups.
Well, but I think, but look at that, for me, I agree with you, right? I mean, that's sort of, you know, payments 101, right? People, okay, I need payments, let's do a static barcode, all the merchants will have acceptance of barcode, is genius, right? Well, you know, not everybody has a barcode scanner, and not all the barcode scanners read phones. So, but you'll find those things out. But my point is that even if that's your start point, start. Because you'll learn how payments work, you'll learn how the payment industry works, you'll get in, okay? Then you'll really see, okay? And the knowledge you'll learn on the journey is your asset, okay? You know, you can tell payments people, because we all are tired, okay? Okay. So,
Starbucks?
Yeah, Starbucks, thank God for caffeine. So, but learning that knowledge, you know, what is a card present transaction, why does it work, why does it not work, when do you use it, when do you not use it, would merchants use it in the physical world? Until you get in, you don't know where the game is today. Right, I'll give you an example, MCX, right? AKA Walmart's mafia here, right? They don't like the way payments work today, right? It's too expensive. Credit card payments cost them 1%, too expensive. They need lower, right? So they're going to invent something, you know, like a universal gift card. Let's just say, just purely hypothetically, okay? What is the cost of the transaction of a gift card? Anyone know what that costs?
0.
No, it's not 0. It's about 1.5 cents to 2 cents per transaction. Add money or deduct money, it's about 2 cents, okay? So for MCX, 1% versus 1 cent, wow. Big saving, big saving. How much do you have to incent the consumer to use your card? That's the problem for Walmart or whoever else is going to use the solution, right? I go into Home Depot, I buy a $300, you know, power tool or something like that. How much does MCX have to convince me to use my MCX card versus my Visa card from my bank? If it's more than 1% and offers, coupons, discounts, whatever they're doing to get my attention, it's more expensive than the Visa card, okay? That is payments. That is payments. Okay, so I'm very bullish. Payments is a great space to get into. It's hard, but it's definitely, I would not dissuade people from going for it.
I'd like to add just one point, because we're talking about 50 companies with barcodes and all that, and that's true that there are, I think, even more. The point is, we have at FLASHiZ 35 people at this time. Among those 35 people, probably 15 are working on the back office side. 90% of the work we do is not on the front end. I mean, we use QR code or NFC, whatever. I mean, developing an app is not that difficult. Developing a nice app, which is scanning a QR code, I mean, everyone can do it. And so what everybody sees on FLASHiZ when using FLASHiZ is just the small part of the iceberg, because all we do behind this is the A to Z processing of the money, of anti-money laundering, of fraud risk assessment and all that. And this is very complex because payment is a complex domain. Payment is not just making a wire transfer. Payment is all that is behind it. So there are several possibilities for companies, and I'll go back to your question before again. Why did we want to have a banking license to be independent? And because we were able to do it. Because on those 35 people, we have 20 people who have a strong banking background. I'm actually in the top management, one of the youngest, with 12 years of experience in the banking industry. My co-founder is 25 years of experience, was head of payments of one of the largest banks. And payment is very complex. people just see, okay, I flash a card, I confirm the payment, all the payment is done. That was pretty easy. All the work is behind it, all the fraud, all the contestations. Disputes, thank you. All the disputes and all those stuff are very complex, and that's why also we need some lawyers. So those are some very complex stuff, and there are plenty of companies, of startups, which are more coming from the technology side, who are bringing some nice technology innovation, but who are not bringing the back end. And I know that because we're working for some of those companies in Europe as being their back end. So we're making money also on this side. So not only on the front end, but especially on the back end. Because who's doing the back end now? There's the telcos for the carrier billing systems, or there are the banks. And both are not that innovative. Sorry for the banking and the telcos. It's always very long because those are some big corporates. Banks don't like risks. I mean, they are paid to manage some risk, so bringing some risk and innovation is risky. They don't want this. Telcos are large companies and want to go to be part of the value chain of payments, but usually banks don't want telcos to go there. So the payment is complex. There are not that much companies who are making the full processing because those companies are usually banks and telcos.
On the security side, and we had a couple of specific questions. One of the questions is why so much focus on the detection of fraud, not prevention? Hans, Ray, I'll open it up to anybody. Erik?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd agree with that. I mean, I alluded to it earlier, the whole EMV effort in the US. So just a 8-second summary of that is the way most other developed countries pay with chip cards as opposed to magstripe cards is coming to the US, right? Probably a big increase in chip card payments starting in 2015. That's sort of the timeline. That is about duplicate card prevention and stopping this idea of people stealing magstripe data and duplicating cards. It's all about fraud prevention, and it's a huge effort. I think that the issue is we just move slow because there are literally over a billion cards, or probably 2.2 billion cards or something like that in the US that need to be replaced. There are somewhere between 6 and 12 million points of interaction terminals, for lack of a better term, that need to be upgraded or replaced. So it's a massive effort, but I reject the notion that it's not being paid attention to.
Are there any lessons to be learned from the chip side to apply to mobile, and why it seems to have taken so much longer here in the United States than compared to the rest of the world?
And it took 20 years in Europe, so EMV took 20 years. We'll do it. And now that we're being forced to do it, I mean, we're being encouraged to do it, I'm sorry. It'll take less than 20 years here in the US, right? But I actually think if we're talking about physical point of sale, merchant point of sale, fraud is well under control. Honestly, I wouldn't make a business of fraud at the physical point of sale. I mean, there is the existing industry. That's one thing we do well. We just keep cranking, the fraud wheel tighter and tighter. Okay, so fraud is even on unschooled, low-tech countries like the United States, where we're using still audio tape for payment. Fraud is low. Fraud is low. Okay, it's shockingly low. Okay, there's more online when you pay an Amazon transaction versus at the store. It's more, but not that much more. You pay other places, other ways. Bitcoin. I'd love to see what the fraud rate of Bitcoin is. I mean, but I think it's hard to make a new company by somehow changing the fraud model some dramatic way. The industry itself will be slowly incorporating a lot more fraud techniques over the next 20 years. Just through our normal business.
You touched on Bitcoin. There was a specific question. Can anybody discuss Bitcoin and others like it?
Happy to take a shot. Bitcoin traded, I think, at $100 yesterday, so bubble, maybe. I don't know. To me, I think one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is obviously to date it is an unregulated currency, and that's allowed it to be used for lots of things we don't like to talk about, that lots of people do. I think, I guess the one thing I would say about Bitcoin that I think will be interesting over time is whether or not Bitcoin becomes a victim of its own success, which is, the fact that it's unregulated makes it attractive for certain users today. If it continues to be successful and more Bitcoin gets printed, there may be a day when the government decides, you know what, it's actually time to regulate this in a way that will affect the success of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they don't have a model that turns them into another Visa, right, where they're going to be part of transaction processing, they will be crushed. This is not new. We had, this came up. I can't remember what the solution was in 10, 15 years ago. Electronic currency that was completely unregulated. It competes with the government, right? It competes with all governments' ability to regulate their own currencies. So by definition, as long as it's if it's porn to internet where it was the starting, got the wheels moving, but then the rest of the world, took over the space. I mean, I think that's the future of Bitcoin.
Go through a few of the more specific questions. Size of transaction limitations. Any sense when you'll be able to make larger purchases?
Maybe I can start from our experience and what we see. Well, I'm not sure people are ready to buy their car or their house with their mobile phone, at least not yet. I think people, what we have seen on our side, that people always started with small payments, micro payments. I mean, $1, $2, $3, $4. This was, most of the time, this is their first payment. They just want to try, does it work? And once they have done this, what they do is that they go to a restaurant and spend $50, $60, $70. It's a bit more expensive in Europe than here. And then we have even seen people buying some computers. This is not that usual, but $1,000, $2,000. On our side, we have an average basket around $17, with a very large variance, which means that we have a lot of micropayments, $1, $2, $3, and we have quite a lot also of $30, $40, $50. And this is more in the range of 0 to, let's say, $200 that most of the payments are done. And this is because this is for small payments. I want to go fast, like at Starbucks. I won't pay with my credit card at Starbucks. I won't pay my bus ticket with a credit card, or at the restaurant because it just goes faster to pay. And so it brings some value, and also if I have some coupons and all that, that's nice. Making some large payments, at least in Europe, we have not seen that much. Doesn't mean that it's not possible, technically or legally. It's just because people are not that used to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the common narrative, is that mobile is about small transactions. Nothing about NFC is limited to small transactions. So if you can buy it with a card, you can buy it with your phone. Okay, so if you can buy a car with your credit card, you can certainly buy it using your phone. Okay, so and actually there's ways where that's probably more secure than using a card. But I think the reality is that mobile has a benefit of convenience and speed. But let me give you one alternative narrative, which is I'm going in to buy a new TV. This happens very infrequently, and I'm trying to decide which card to use. Okay, this is where the wallet share issue comes up for a lot of issuers, right? We all have our favorite preferred cards that we use on a regular basis, and we have the extra card we carry with us. Like for me, that's I carry my American Express card because I go to Costco. Okay, well, good job, Costco. Amex, you're in my wallet now. Okay, and when I'm looking at buying the TV, I have my primary card and my Amex card as my two options, right? But with the phone, it allows my other 5 or 6 banking relationships to come into play, right? I'm willing to take 30 seconds to say, okay, banks, this is going to be a very expensive transaction for me. Who has the best rate? Okay? Being able to shop my transaction back to the bank and say, hey, I'm going to drop some serious coin here. Who's going to give me 3%? Do I hear 3%? 2.5%. 2.5%. Come on, Discover Card, come through for me now. Okay? So my point is that connectivity may change us around, where consumers, for slow purchases, like big purchases, we can take 30 seconds in the store and say, okay, banks, let's talk.
A couple of questions around what I describe as treasury operations, collection risk, and currency exchange. How will that be managed, or how is that managed in the mobile world? Ray, I see you nodding.
Yeah, well, at least as it pertains specifically to carrier billing, I mean, we transact in loads and loads of local currencies. I would say, again, just to be consistent with the theme, this stuff is hard. It's hard to transact in local currency and sort of make sure that that gets to the merchant in the form that they want it to be in. I know there was a specific question about how does sort of the mechanics of the payment work. I mean, typically, at least in carrier billing in our business, the operators are responsible for making the collection, and then we're sort of waiting on the payment to get to them before it gets to us. So we have a bit of a settlement lag, but just in terms of the mechanics, that's how it works. Question around generally mobile payments and the integration with social, and not just loyalty, but social. How do you guys, Kolja, how do you guys see that developing?
I've yet to see a very compelling example of a social media campaign that fully integrates a payment solution that is totally new and totally compelling and the next big thing. There may be something there, but I also fear that this could just be a buzzword of this year and die next year.
I do think if Facebook wants to become PayPal, that's the way in, right? Just start putting cards on file, right? Start right now. If you get 500 million cards on file, trust me, you're in the payments business. Okay, so I think that the benefit of social is the community, right? If you can get underlying payment capability with your community, you are very attractive. Okay, so I think there's that. But you're right. Is now can Facebook go all the way to Visa? Right? In other words, it's on them transaction because all the brands are there. Now we're talking real game. But I think that's the benefit. If you can get your social community to bring their payments to your social community, you have value.
Let me open it up to afterwards questions. And I know there were a couple of topics I didn't hit, so if you want to ask them, gentlemen.
Yeah, you had talked about bringing payments up to the large scale. And you talked about what I would call mini payments, which are in the $1 to $4 range, something like that. What about true micro payments? Is the cost of transactions getting down to the point where you can truly get sub $1 payments make sense?
Well, in our case, we're a wallet, so you can top up, preload your account, top up your account in advance. We decided to fix a minimum in Europe, which is $20 euros, $25–30 of minimum of top up from the credit card, and afterwards, I mean, if it's 50 cents or $20, we don't care. It's just a percentage. So if it would be, for example, 1% of $1 or 1% of $10 would be the same for the merchant with the same percentage as we have this wallet capability.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. I think if you look at iTunes and Google Play are our micro merchants as far as I'm concerned, right? If you can make a transaction at 99 cents and lose 20 cents in that transaction and still have a business, you're doing good, right? And the way they're doing it is they are optimizing the heck out of their models. Okay, so all the risk of transaction is on the marketplace. There's to get your credit back 99 cents is a lot of hoop jumping. So they have optimized their models with the financial industry to make 99-cent transaction possible, but it's still costing them 10 cents, 15 cents. They're still paying for it. And I think otherwise you have to go exactly what you're saying, which is do a transaction for a larger amount and then spend 99 cents at 1 cent a transaction, right? Gift card.
Speaking of the Apple Android marketplaces and the mobile payment space, like BOKU and Mopay, and even the Starbucks, are, is the Starbucks app, is it paying 30 cents on the dollar to Apple for the privilege of buying your dollar coffee on top of the transaction cost in the back end? How does that work?
No, so for the Starbucks app, Apple makes nothing, right? It's a free app. It's the genius of the smartphones in where we are today is the brand can have a direct relationship with the consumer without the intermediary being involved, right? So Starbucks posted an app. The app has payments. Apple is not involved in that economics.
Yeah, I think that that violates Apple's iOS iTunes rules. That's why I was asking that.
It's not an online transaction, right? It's not a transaction inside the app.
Yeah, we can talk offline about
Yeah.
that. Anything from the other guys?
No, I agree here. I think there's something missing in the translation. That's a good way to put it. So no, there's no the transaction. Apple doesn't even see, right? All Starbucks does is throw up a barcode, and that barcode is a number. That number gets interpreted in Starbucks' POS system. Apple has nothing to do with it.
There's you're absolutely right. It violates Apple's rules. It would violate any Google Marketplace rules. It's similar to, you have to look at it similar as like the Amazon app. You purchase something on through the Amazon app, Apple wouldn't get any share of that either. So they have like, for these mega merchants, they have like it's in the gray zone. It's non-physical goods or it's for physical goods. They make tons of exceptions like that. It's not unknown. So typically, the rule of thumb is if you process the payment, regardless how you do it, if you accept payments, Apple gets a 30% share.
I mean, it's that lawsuit with Microsoft and Apple.
Yeah, we can talk offline, but that's not the case. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you. So Apple makes money on when apps are sold through the iTunes store or when money travels through the iTunes system. They don't have anything to do with, the Amazon app. If you make a purchase on Amazon on an iOS app, iTunes doesn't make any money on that.
Agreed. We'll take it off.
Okay.
Lawyers. We need lawyers.
Nobody says that very often.
We've heard a lot about value-added services for wallets, and there are a bunch of different startups that are getting to mobile payments. Yet the one kind of experience that everyone's referred to has been Starbucks, which is really a retailer. So as you talk about the value-added service, who's really better positioned to deliver the overall value of a mobile wallet? Is it the payments companies or is it the retailer?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Today, the focus has been on the merchants, I would agree. Starbucks being probably the best example of that. There's no reason that won't move to anybody else. Any third party, I suppose, could play in that. One example that I just thought of sitting here is Ebates. If you use them for online purchases, there's no reason they couldn't do something, right? The problem is merchants are not jumping up and down to start accepting 15,000 different wallets from different third parties. So that's the hurdle. If you want critical mass, you need big merchants. If you want big merchants, you need to sort of play by their rules. So.
Yeah, but I think the solving that problem is all those big merchants have app experiences, and that's very important to their future of their business. Getting consumers in their app while they're in their store is mission number one, because they can have an interactive relationship with the consumer that they never had before. And if they can enable payments from that app, whether it's proximity payment at the point of sale or card not present transaction online, that is a huge value add for the merchant. So I think my issue is still that there's these mythical wallets. There's these 1-2 unicorn wallets out there that have magic powers. And one of Sequent's main jobs is to democratize the use of the secure element for all app developers. So that way the Target app, which I don't use a Target shopping app, I downloaded it. It's amazing what you can do with the Target app right now. I almost want to go shopping at Target. So, but if they can just add payment at the end of that completes that consumer experience that they're looking for while they're in store. So, I think the value proposition to big merchants is all of your apps that you have today can also have payment. You don't have to be locked up in ISIS's experience just to have this thing called payment. That's the switch that says, okay, now I'm interested. You know, I'll do my app, and all right, fine, Visa gets their app too. Okay, you know, but at least I get my app. That allows me to, you know, do something different with my consumers.
Sorry, I would just add, I think there are two types of merchants. There are the large ones and the small ones. The large ones, talking about Target, it could be Walmart, whatever, they all have their own app. And so our approach was to propose to integrate the payment with an SDK into their app directly, because they don't want their customers to use FLASHiZ. They want to use Target or Walmart app. For small merchants, it's pretty different, because either you're big as a Starbucks, and you can make your own mobile payment system, you can make your own couponing and loyalty program solutions and all that. But if you go to a very small restaurant or to a very small store, you don't have the financial capacity, technical capacity to have your own loyalty program. And the approach we had was to build a full loyalty engine that we share on all merchants, and so every merchant can define their own loyalty program. So they just go on the website, they just define their own loyalty program, and when their customer comes and want to pay, they can enroll the program of the merchant, of the small merchant, who at this time doesn't have any capability except having a card with stamps, which does not bring that much value to him.
One of the thoughts on, I work at a bank, the more traditional kind of technology companies, like FIS, Fiserv, TSYS. We have Verifone here, but I haven't heard anyone mention the usual suspects in FIS, Fiserv, TSYS. Where is their role going to be in mobile payments?
They definitely have a role. I mean, I think all of those companies are trying, that's their business plan going forward, right? I mean, so whether it's card credential management over the air, where they were making plastic cards, and now they're going to manage those cards over the air on behalf of their same customers. I mean, the benefit that those companies have is they have the trust of those existing customers already, right? All they want to do is offer the next service to that existing customer, right? The next service is, hey, let me manage employee badges on the phone for you, or let me manage your bank cards on the phone for you, or let me accept transactions that are using mobile credentials instead of the traditional credentials. So all of them have very linear business plans into absorbing mobile as part of their infrastructure, as part of their business.
Moving beyond NFC and mobile payments, do you foresee anything providing more value in the future? And would biometrics play a role?
No. I mean, so one of the challenges we have is risk versus speed and convenience. And we put biometrics, we put fingerprint scanners on NFC-enabled phones many years ago, and wow, isn't that great? No. It just slows things down. And then eventually, at the bank, the business people tell the risk people, enough, right? Okay, yes, there's a more secure transaction, so what? Nobody's doing it. Okay, so I don't think there's any problem adding more security, but eventually the speed and convenience thing becomes a problem. And I think that is one of the big challenges for EMV in the US is, you know, we're pretty fast paying space. You know, entering a card and entering a PIN for, you know, speed-oriented consumers will be a challenge. I think contactless EMV has a much brighter future.
I think we might come to biometrics in some time. There were some experiences launched, but not to identify a credit card or to replace a PIN card, but just I want to pay. I just put my finger somewhere and it works very fast. At this time, it takes between 5 and 10 seconds to be clearly identified when it works. This is absolutely not acceptable for a large retailer. I mean, for a large retailer, 1 second is just millions of dollars a year. Just 1 second at the checkout. So there were some experiences. The technology is not mature enough at this time, but might come. I mean, if I don't even have to get my phone or to get my credit card or whatever, just want to check out, just put my finger somewhere, works, and I can go on. I'm very happy with that.
Pay by touch. Do the research. Heavily funded company 10 years ago. Huge failure because they didn't establish trust with the consumer. It was payment by a finger, right? Massive failure. Learn.
Along the same lines,
role does compliance and watch list screening play in the payment transaction? At what level is the screening happening? Is it a dollar amount? Is it done real time and batch? I'm kind of curious about at what stage or how much importance is put on that sanctions screening.
You're talking about back-end risk management, basically?
Talking about watch list OFAC screening within the U.S. or especially designated list, making sure that you're not selling to drug traffickers and bad guys and that sort of thing. What importance does it play in this space? Is it a certain dollar threshold? Is it done real time?
Maybe I can answer because we have a lot of those processes. I won't give a clear answer because there are some live alerts that comes depending on the location, depending on the amount, depending if it's a new fund that is used to pay with the account. There are some other alerts, and we were talking before about security. And when you talk about security, we always talk about technical security. Technical security can always be cracked. Anyway, I mean, we can put whatever encrypted technology, whatever. At some point, it will be cracked. So what is very important is the process security, the operational security, and when the money comes out to the account, there must be some checks. Can be fraud, can be also anti-terrorism, and all those nice stuff that we have to manage as being a bank. So there will be some live alerts depending on the thresholds, but the threshold I cannot say it's $100, $100, $1,000, $10,000, and so on, because it depends on the client profile. So there is a client risk profile, and same for the merchant, especially for anti-money laundering. If Walmart makes every day $1 million of transactions, so whatever. If small local restaurants makes $1 million transactions every day, well, we'll take a look a bit deeper on what's going on. So it really depends on the risk profile. So those are 3 streams I gave. But there are some risk profiling processes that are made also by all Visa, MasterCard, and all processing companies. They are anyway mandatory.
Can you speak briefly about the role of customer data aggregation, and that the sort of data's role in either accelerating acceptance of payments or hindering it?
I think the data is key. I think we would all recognize that the data is key. I mean, with that said, so when I say the data is key to delivering all these value-added services that we've been talking about. But I think there's a real challenge there, right? So we as consumers say, well, we want, don't encroach on my privacy. And so there's an interesting balance that I think we need to strike between sort of getting access to the data in a way that's actionable and creates these compelling value-added services, but does it in a way that doesn't encroach on our privacy.
And I think this is one of the issues that always comes up with Google, but I don't see necessarily Google dipping into the merchant's data pool or the bank's data pool. I mean, there's some little more concern now about what the newest solution there, you see a little bit more now. But I think, ultimately, if you're going to run a value-added service business with consumers, you need to know a lot about them. Merchants pride their facts that they have the shopping basket data, so they know who's buying what. That said, they're not doing very much with it. Okay, so they have a lot of data. That's their big dream, that they're going to make this much more contextual. Banks have the same thing. They get all the transaction data. They see you across all these merchants. That said, they're not doing very much with it right now. Okay, so and then Google, right? Every time we touch a Google experience, Google's tracking a lot of data, and they, outside of AdWords and AdSense, they're not doing nearly as much as that they could. So I think, and I also think, by the way, those parties want to license the access to their data. I don't think that there's these brick walls between them. I think there's some contracts between those data, right? I think Home Depot would be happy to let a bank peek into their data, if for a fee. Right? So I think, and that may be how more of this plays out is, Home Depot doesn't do the most contextual based big data processing on what I buy at Home Depot, but they have another company that does, right? And they make a vig on, you know, what the other company does with me or to me.
We'll do one more question.
Yes, so you've talked a lot about mobile payments as it relates to merchants, but what about the transportation space? I'm thinking transit agencies or even parking garages.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're right, we haven't talked about that. So it is going there. We're doing a number of pilots in I guess New York and the upper Northeast in general for mobile payments, open loop payments, right? So a lot of the transit authorities are moving to open loop models where before they had these gift card style, you know, prepaid style type methods of payment. So it's absolutely happening in those cities where that makes sense. There's a lot of change happening in that space as well, and it's certainly a component of mobile to that, no question.
Yeah, I think I look at the transit agencies as a merchant, right? Today they have a closed loop card, right? Think of it as a gift card, right? They add money, you take money off, right? They're a merchant. Payment, parking meters and all that, that's another merchant. Cities making, you know, either they're accepting currency or you have a closed loop product. Someday they may do MasterCard, Visa acceptance. So I think, you know, there's obviously some extremely unique things about those merchants, but from a payments perspective, they're trying to run transactions. I mean, that said, you know, the sales cycle into a transit agency is around 8 years. So, you know, plan your business plan smartly, okay? Because the sell-in cycle is very long.
Just about transport, so very quickly. This is the second largest industry for us, especially for parkings and for buses. So this is the second largest and most used systems, because those are some kind of small ecosystems. I mean, you always go to some parking lots, or you always go in the street to some parts of the street. And as just said, just takes ages before getting the contract. We answered an RFP 6 months ago for the city of Paris. I don't expect that you'll be able to pay with FLASHiZ before 3 years. So it should be next year, but I don't expect before 3 years, because there will be some discussions, some checking, and then maybe another RFP just to make sure that there are no other solutions. Just take ages. But when you're in it, that's really great, because you've got 8 to 10 year contracts. So that's great, but it takes ages.
If you could please join me in thanking our panelists. And for the next Total Access programs, you can go to Orrick.com for our fundraising series, our digital health, and security. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.